completely unafraid. There is no place like yesterday, except you're waiting. Oh, safe and warm, keep holding on through the storm. I'm on my way. traded in a tie-dye jumpsuit and a gutter punk kid with a neck tattoo. They're hooking up at the unisex bathroom. It was Brooklyn, it was Friday, it was love. Across the bar sat the hip-hop purists, arguing with the jazz obscurists. And in the corner were the terrified tourists. Brooklyn, Friday love. Angel choirs on the corner all night, sing Johnny Cash and Jackson 5. A little heaven you can stumble into. We got your invite tonight. Try to fight. It's just Brooklyn on Friday. Try to fight. It's just Brooklyn on Friday. understand. Desire is hunger, is the fire I breathe. Love is a banquet on which we feed. Come on now, try and understand the way I feel when I'm in your hands. Take my hand, come undercover. They can't hurt you now, can't hurt you now, can't hurt you now. Because the night belongs to lovers. Because the night belongs to lovers. Because the night belongs to lovers. Because the night belongs to us. Have I doubt when I'm alone? Love is a ring, a telephone. Love is an angel disguised as lust. Here in our bed till the morning comes. Come on now, try and understand the way I feel under your command. Take my hand as the sun descends. They can't touch you now, can't touch you now, can't touch you now. Because the night belongs to lovers. Because the night belongs to us. Because the night belongs to lovers. Because the night belongs to us.
You want us to go the other way?
Without the vicious circles and birds, without you, I cannot live. Forgive the yearning, but I believe it's time to live, to feel. So touch me now, touch me now, touch me now. Oh, because the night belongs to lovers. Because the night belongs to us. Because the night belongs to lovers. Because the night belongs to us. Because the night belongs to lovers. If we believe in nature. Because the night belongs to lovers. Because the night belongs to us.
Sit next to me if you want. When you talk
Just like that. So you guys can sit in the front row if you like. I think just because we'll show you videos first.
Oh,
and then
awesome.
you guys can come on. So just be comfortable, I reckon.
We got married under the golden gate, then we got drunk in the upper hay. It was a sunny day, all our friends got laid, and we got a little older, moved away. Took our 80 in New York City, it's a long damn way, sure is pretty. We ran out of gas, near Collarts, and delivered our first child 9 months after that. That was hard to say. I know you're always sitting in the bar.
Second two.
There will come a day
Hi everyone, welcome to the first of many events this weekend in regards to APA 2024. Yay! By the end of the weekend I won't be quite so nervous, I'm sure. I just wanted to start today by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands and waters in which we reside, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And at Photo Collective, we acknowledge that the Indigenous people of the land have been making stories through art and creativity for over 60,000 years. And we acknowledge that it always will be and always was Aboriginal land. So yes, thanks again for coming. So tonight's going to be a lovely little intro with a couple of movies we've made this year, a couple of short films we've made with our beautiful partners, Collarts and Nikon Australia. So I just want to start by thanking Collarts for hosting this night in their beautiful premises here and for being such a supporter of what we do at Photo Collective. We'll be hearing from them a little bit later after the videos have been shown. And thanks to our team at Nikon as well, or the team at Nikon, not our team, that sounds very presumptuous. The team at Nikon, Julie and Ross are here today, and they're just the greatest people to work with as well. So we're very, very fortunate. So we start tonight with a beautiful video on Naiti Okot and her experience at Collarts and the Collarts, what Collarts provides to its students. And tonight is all about education, it's all about learning this beautiful art form of photography. And we're so fortunate that through this event, we've been able to not only have Collarts here, but have representatives at RMIT and Deakin and Photography Studies College and Polytech. And we're bringing all these different institutions together to talk about how we're educating the new students coming through and perhaps the older students going back to learn. So this is really, really exciting for us. So we start tonight with this beautiful film on Naiti, and we'll hear from her a little bit later in the evening. So I'll stop rambling and hopefully my tech will work. Okay, please enjoy.
Well, I think when I first started photography, it was kind of just like, oh yeah, like she's just trying something new again. Oh, this is what she's on to next. But I think as people, like, especially my family and friends, started recognizing how much I enjoy it and all the time and effort and money I was putting into it, and also like the things that I was photographing and putting out there, I think they really started to see that I was going to put more time and effort into this because I really do enjoy it. And because of that, like, they've been my number one supporters. My name is Naiti Okot and I am a student at Collarts. I started off as a diploma of photography student at Collarts, and I was just forming such amazing industry connections and enjoying the course so much that I decided to continue on with the bachelor in photography. I'm a portrait and wedding photographer, and working with my community has been the most fulfilling part of my photography because there aren't many, female South Sudanese photographers. It's nice for like a little kid to approach me and say, hey, like, I've never been photographed by a Sudanese or black photographer before, and I've had that happen, and that just reassures me that, okay, like, what I'm doing, like my photography, it's really fulfilling and wholesome. When my family first migrated to Australia in 2004, getting a family photo done was like the last thing on our mind because, we've got bigger fish to fry. But now, like me being in a position where I can offer that to not only my family, but to other South Sudanese families who, you know, may not necessarily be able to afford it now, or again, is because I found that there was still so much that I needed to learn. And also Collarts have been doing a lot of work in studio, setting up lighting and how to meet a client brief. And because I'm running my own business on the outside, I find myself a lot of the time going back to my notes like, oh, like how do you do this? Or how do you communicate this? Or how do you send off an invoice? So I find myself applying a lot of what I learn directly into my business and my day-to-day. So at Collarts, there is always either a fashion student or music student who needs something photographed. And so we're always encouraged and like share contacts with other students so we can collab and create art as well at the same time, building up portfolios. And it is amazing working with other photographers because again, the different perspectives, their thought processes of being creative, it's just out of this world and you just want to pick their brains all the time. But it's just so motivating to be around other photographers like in the program as well. The more I photograph, the more I collaborate with other photographers and creatives, the more I want to do more, if that makes sense. And so working at the same time as running a business and studying, when the creative juices start flowing, they start flowing. Creativity literally cannot wait.
It's so lovely. So I just want to give a little shout out to Angus Scott, who's one of our very own, who's made both of these films tonight as well. I won't say too much more, but I'm just going to go straight into our next feature. And this one is, it's a little bit funny because this one is actually on the Photo Collective team. So each year we produce work on an artist, and this year we've egotistically done it on ourselves. But it's been quite an amazing experience, actually, other than the slight awkwardness of seeing yourself on screen. It's been a very beautiful thing for the three of us to connect over and to kind of get an understanding of each other's practices more. And although you don't see Gussie in front of the camera, he's very much Here is our second film of the night. So I guess I want to start with talking about this house really is my place because I've never lived anywhere so long. I've been here 10 years. By my teenage years, I'd lived in 5 countries. You know, in my mid-30s to mid-40s, it's been a very pivotal change, actually just being still. Photography, I think, has always been a way for me to try and document what has happened in my life because we've always moved. And so every year or every couple of years, every few months when I had to move house when I was in my 20s, it's always been a different place and a different scene and a different town.
And I guess photography for me became a way of trying to remember, trying to hold on to memories.
So I think over time my practice has become more and more introspective. It's always been about going out and seeing what unfolds and what I discover. When it was earlier on in my career, that was more about travel, going to places that were different from where I grew up. And throughout the trajectory of my creative practice, it's become more about looking at my position within all of this. Inevitably, that brought me to my family, the people that are around me that are closest, my home, the change of home, how we ended up in this country as well.
My dad was in Australia for a long time, but then left. And my mum left when she was a teenager in the UK, and then they moved around. And my childhood has been all over the place. And Jack is like been here, solid, you know, just here. Yeah, trying to ground that, I guess. And maybe being fascinated by that this is like the first generation in multiple where he has, you know, real roots.
It started from a few different points of view. First being the want to start looking through family archive and start trying to make sense of that. Trying to understand how my ancestors and their journey to Australia has shaped who I am today and my current position in what it means to be Australian in this day and age. So on my mum's side, that's my Swiss heritage. I've still got lots of family over there. And there's some beautiful records of that side of my family. And within my studio and my home, I've got a lot of items that, you know, belong to my grandfather, and I'm really surrounded by a lot of the history there. My father's side was a bit different. His parents immigrated to Australia. They essentially fled Austria during World War II. And the history was much harder to trace on that side. I had a great grandfather who died. He was sent to an extermination camp in Latvia. So, you know, the project became a bit of a way to start looking into that and understanding it. One thing I've realised over the years is the limitation that a photograph can hold. We often think about this idea that a photograph is, you know, a true record of what's happened. And I think if you start looking at family photos and family archives in that way, it can become a bit of a dangerous thing, where you think a certain photograph holds all the meaning. I look at the archival work in a very similar way that I approach documentary photography these days, which is, I think, a lot more about the space that exists between the photographs.
As I document the place I'm in now, where I've been for 10 years, it becomes more entrenched, I guess. It's about the changing place, the changes that have happened in that place. You know, when you have a child and you see that child grow up in one place, and that place becomes more than just the park down the road or the shop across the street or the storm drain over the way. It becomes a trip down memory lane of what has happened in your life, and being able to kind of photograph that change that's happening, not just in the environment, but in yourself and in your child and in the way you interact with that environment, is so it becomes more than I think it's always been about people, it's always been about connecting, and when that becomes connecting to your family and to your child and partner, that's so it can be so deep. I guess I'm obsessed with nostalgia and memory, and I always have been, and perhaps again it goes back to my upbringing of just trying to kind of hold on to these memories that are seem so fleeting because they weren't reinforced every day, because we weren't in the same place every day, because you're trying to remember where that was or what happened. And so the way I photograph is with these kind of old cameras, you know, broken cameras. I don't do a lot of processing. Often I just take the scans and that's it. I like that the more broken it looks, the better to me. And I think there's something about this idea of trying to remember a past, trying to piece it together, and being able to kind of photograph Jack in his modern life that is so stable in this kind of very old way that feels like it's disappearing in the image, kind of connects us both, I guess, in that kind of process.
I live in a cold climate rainforest. So if you imagine huge tree ferns, lots of bracken, huge gum trees, you're a lot more connected to the change of the seasons and the change to the landscape. It is a more isolating place to live and, hidden away a bit more. And there is a feeling of being a bit more secluded, and I think I'm quite naturally introverted as well, and I'm quite happy being in my own company. Being in the company of animals is another big one for me. I feel much more comfortable being around animals than I do around people a lot of the time. I think that they serve as amazing metaphors. They're often things that are around us that we don't really notice as much, and the butterflies are a perfect example of that when you actually start paying attention to them and realise that they could be connected to meaning. A different meaning when you see them and when you follow them and strange little coincidences happen. It's just another way to stay curious about where you are and the environment around you. I've got a trail camera that's set up at the bottom of our property, and it films along this bush track that the animals use. And I set it up really just to get a sense of what passes through this area, especially the things that we don't see. And there's amazing, beautiful animals that you see come through, echidnas, wombats that pass most night, wallabies, possums, all these beautiful animals. There's traces of immigration.
That's it, folks.
Help, Ricky.
Where are we? We are 1 minute 8 seconds.
Yeah, about there.
Get a sense of what passes through this area, especially the things that we don't see. And there's amazing, beautiful animals that you see come through, echidnas, wombats that pass most night, wallabies, possums, all these beautiful animals. There's traces of immigration.
Just like to say everything worked perfect in the test.
Go past that silly wombat. Ooh, I don't know. No.
Curious about where you
No, it's
are
gonna
and the
stop.
environment around you.
It's going to stop.
I've got a trail camera that's set up at the bottom of our property, and it films along this bush track that the animals use. And I set it up really just to get a sense of what passes through this area, especially the things that we don't see. And there's amazing, beautiful animals that you see come through, echidnas, wombats that pass most night, wallabies, possums, all these beautiful animals.
Can we
There's traces
stop
of
the-
immigration.
Oh,
Okay, pause it there.
sorry, everyone. Just, huh? Just, it's okay, it's okay. Just don't want to, hold on. Can we not have it up on the big screen here?
Yeah, can we not screen the big screen, please? Not screen the big screen. We don't want to see Harriet's
Emails.
YouTube. Yeah, it's not screening at the moment.
Okay, great.
Still clear to put whatever you need to put on the screen.
There it is.
The
There it
YouTube
is.
screen.
Just double click that.
This beautiful native habitat. So when you see these, in using beautiful animals that you see come through, echidnas, wombats that pass most night, wallabies, possums, all these beautiful animals. There's traces of immigration that exists everywhere, and especially, I feel like here it becomes even more heightened because you're surrounded by all this beautiful native habitat. So when you see these, in beautiful colours of the rhododendrons, for example, and you realise that, these are plants that have come all the way from Nepal and they're everywhere, and, it's very easy to just think that they're part of the landscape, but, the way that we as people have moved around and brought these elements of home with us does exist everywhere. And the trail camera records a lot of that as well, be it the foxes or the deer or the feral cats that gets picked up. The trail camera's become a little experiment within itself, and I think a really interesting recording of that illusion of us living in a totally untouched place when the way that we've impacted the environment is everywhere.
I don't know what the meaning of it all is. I don't know. I definitely know I don't want to do anything else. I definitely know that I love photography and the art form that it is, and the way just that single capture can just evoke so much in you and in the audience and in people in general. And I don't know what that means for my personal practice, and I don't feel like I need to show my work to evoke that feeling in others, but I definitely feel I want to show other people's work to evoke that feeling. Which is weird because most people are making work to get out into the world, which is absolutely, probably the sensible thing to do. But for me, it's more kind of for myself and to understand more about where I'm at the moment in life.
Thanks for your patience there, everyone. Yes, we're real. On this note, I think I would like to, first of all, just once again thank Nikon and Collarts for the support in helping us produce these films this year, and of course to Gussie for making them. So we'll start with our first talk now, I think. So we're going to invite Nighty and Ricky Bunda and Tom Goldner and Jules, Julie Kimpton. So we've got a representative of Nikon and Collarts here, and they're going to have a beautiful conversation on the changing ways of photography these days.
Hello, everybody. Okay, we've been told to speak very closely to these microphones, so reposition myself a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, we probably should have got the heights and all that kind of stuff right before, but so welcome everybody. Really excited to chat with these wonderful people here today. So we've got Julie Kimpton from Nikon, who's a huge supporter of photography and the arts. We've got Nighty, which all of you have gotten to know really well through that video. And we've also got Ricky Bunda here from Collarts, who also is a huge patron for the arts and massive supporter for what we're doing here at Photo Collective. So I'm going to do my best to facilitate a bit of a chat here today. That said, I encourage everybody here on the stage to just flow with it. Wow, that was really intense. Just roll with it, and if you've got questions for each other, I really encourage that as well. Otherwise, I just get sick of hearing my own voice. So my first question is for you, Nighty. We've both become really famous this evening with our films. And I know, and probably you know as well, that Angus is really hard to work with, very bossy in his filmmaking process. And I just wanted to hear a little bit about what that experience was like being in front of the camera. So if you can talk to that a little bit, that'd be great.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction, Tom, and just thank you, Photo Collective and Collarts and Nikon, of course, Jules and team for this opportunity. And as you mentioned, being in front of the camera is just different. I love being behind the camera, but it's really, it was quite the experience. And as you mentioned, Gus is so lovely to work with, and you put a lot of hard work into making my whole photography journey and experience come to life, which is actually something so special. And just watching that back again, I don't like the sound of my voice in video, but again, it's so special to me. And again, just watching over that really touched me. And working with other Collard students like Eunice, who was actually the designer of the garments that we photographed. Just such an incredible experience. And again, as I mentioned in the video, to see the creative processes of other creators, it's just so mind-blowing, and to be able to pick their brains, and also to see the element of culture, which is heavily involved in our shoot. It's just so special, because culture is something that I hold quite dearly to my heart as well. So creativity, really can't wait. Yeah, so it was an incredible experience.
So he's not so bad, he's okay.
Not so bad.
So another thing I'd really love to chat about today, like obviously Julie, you wear the Nikon hat a lot. Ricky, you wear the Collarts hat a lot, but you're both artists as well. So Ricky comes from a background of commercial photography and really pursues an art practice as well. And Julie, you work with painting outside of your...
I think my mum used to say I was autistic, not artistic, but I'll take it.
We're all a bit of both. So,
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. And I guess, I'd love this to be kind of part of the conversation today. So it is about, it is about industry and connecting, institutions with artists, in the commercial sector. They all, of course, come together. But, would love to kind of hear your perspectives from your art practice as well, as we sort of discussed tonight. So I guess as a starting point, I'd love to hear about how your creativity has sort of led you to the career that you're on at the moment. So Julie, maybe if you're happy to kind of kick it off, and I guess I'm guessing you're a creative person that came before your career, I'm assuming. So maybe if you can talk a little bit about how painting has kind of informed what you're doing for work at the moment, how they kind of, are they completely separate, or is there a crossover?
I'm really glad I read the brief.
I'm making this up as we go.
But,
that's how I always do it.
Okay. For me, I've always painted. I've always loved a lot of art. I've never wanted to do just one thing, ever. I don't think I've ever told anyone this story, ever. But anyway, here we go. Sorry, you guys. It is International Day of Champagne. Used to that. I remember my dad had a big shed out in the backyard, and I would be out there finding whatever I could paint, and just painting anything, whether it was a barbecue lid or Dad's train set or my brother's balls, not his testicles, but sorry, I realised that was really bad. But anyway, any kind of other things that I could find. Sorry guys, I warned you, Harry, don't put me on here. But yes, I do find that there is a difference between photography for me and for painting. I could paint something in gouache, which is like a water-based paint, very quickly. If someone says, I need you to do a portrait of a dog, no problem. That's something that I'm just reproducing. But if it's something from oil paint that comes from my soul, I usually don't know what I'm going to do. I go in there and something will come out hours, weeks, months later, and my head needs to be empty. I just need to be really peaceful. I need to play music. It's always twang on triple R on 2 to 4, and sometimes I will play 4 sessions over, so I know I've been there for 8 hours. And I have to have a view to the garden, so it's really, really different. I find photography can be like that for me if it's macro, something I'm really focusing on. But generally it's very formulaic for the way that I'm doing it. It's usually recording your events or, you know, something else for Nikon. So it's a little bit different. Yeah.
And I'll just say as well, it is the International Day of Champagne. It's also Julie's birthday today, so those things go hand in hand.
Incidentally, thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So happy birthday.
I was
Thanks for
very
joining us.
pleased that my mum and dad had me today. I was like, yay.
Winning.
My best friend.
I love it. So you can't forget, you got to remember both always. So
I
Champagne
think,
Day, Julie.
I'd love to say about Nighty though, I met you last year, and what you can't ever teach people is personality. You can teach skills, you can encourage creativity, you can lead people, you can nurture them, but you can't teach personality. And you have it in spades, and that video was so beautiful. It was emotive, it was real, and it showed the real you and your talent. So it's really great to see that, the growth in even a year.
Thank you, and I might just add to that as well. It was shot in my bedroom, so it was very comfortable. But thank you, Julie.
Love it. So over to you, Ricky. So coming from a background of photography before you moved in the space of education, I'd love to hear about how that transition happened. And I know you're really actively pursuing your creative practice at the moment, as well as being an educator and involved in Collarts. So tell me a little bit about how that kind of came to be.
So I was an advertising photographer for about 12 years, just over a decade. And it's actually, I was invited over to the Southeast Asia to train, it's a bizarre story, but to train police force on how to use a scanning camera for crime scenes, because I was the only one in Australia that knew how to use this particular camera. And I just absolutely loved it. It was part of the studio that I was at. He owned the rights to the camera, so he sent me over to Indonesia, and we spent weeks and weeks over there. And I just loved teaching. And when I got back, one of my old lecturers invited me in to do a guest lecture, and I just absolutely loved it. And about 3 months after that, he rang me up and asked me if I wanted a job. And I was a bit sick of art directors at that point and the world of advertising. So I thought, and I did have a 3-year-old daughter, and you know what, a commercial advertising photographer, working really long hours, lots of overseas national trips, all that kind of stuff, and I just wanted to spend more time with my daughter, so I thought I'd get into education because there'd be a lot more free time. Sorry. No, and the first day in the classroom was just one of my favourite ever days. I just absolutely love teaching. And as soon as I did that, I sold all my professional gear and I went and bought like a real simple camera. And I wanted to start, because I've always just wanted to be an artist. I didn't want to be a commercial photographer, but that's how I made money. So I just started shooting for myself. And it's actually really interesting the way you guys talked about photography and the way Julie talked about painting versus photography. But that's what it is for me now. It's actually using the camera to try and understand my place in the world. And I try to do exactly what you do, Julie, when you paint. I try to slow things down. I just walk for 2 hours and not expect a single photograph. I don't look at any of my photographs when I'm shooting. I would treat it like it's a film camera. It's not, it's a Nikon.
Thank you.
But it's, I keep the screen flipped. I don't look at my images until I get home, have a nice hot cup of tea, have a look at the images. But I literally just wander, and I try and use the camera to try and understand my place in the world. And I continuously ask that question, like, can photography help me understand, like, the place I live, and the place, my home, and places that I go? Can it help me understand that? And I don't want it to answer that question. I just want to ask that question for the rest of my life, because answering it is just boring. It's just like, I just want that continual. So yeah, I've been wandering through the Macedon Ranges lately, and yeah, it's been amazing.
And Nighty, back to you. So I guess we got to hear a little bit about your background and immigration to Australia, and how photography kind of played a part in that. And I just wonder if you can kind of expand a little bit more on that, and when did you decide that this is something that you want to pursue for work? And if there's that thing of where did your passion for photography kind of root from and made you kind of pursue it to where you are now?
Yeah, awesome. So I actually have a completely different background, well, hobby and career-wise. I was quite heavily into health sciences, but I am such a nostalgic person. I look at an image from 10 years ago and I just feel the rush or the emotions as though I was there or at that time. So because of my love for nostalgia, and again, I've dabbled in so many different things. You just ask my family or friends, they'll be like, oh, here she goes again. Oh, she's trying something new. I'm a hobbyist. I love trying new things. But photography just captures moments in time, and particularly with my background, moving here as a refugee in 2004, my family, just to have a family portrait done, it was we've got bills to pay, we've got other, much more important things. But now that, I can take a photograph of, my siblings or my parents, for example, and, show them a few days later, they'll have a look at it oh, you're not bad at all. Or, they see the value in capturing memories and just having something to pass down to, your kids or your grandkids. I have a really big family, and you're probably wondering how big. 10 siblings is pretty big. Massive family, and, we've got I don't have grandchildren. My parents have grandchildren. But now they see the value in keeping memories and, family trees. And, we live in such an evolving world, and even just the photography industry is evolving every week, every day, even the creative industry in general. But, we see the importance of just stopping the moment in time and just valuing time whilst we have it right now. So that's all in the last couple of years have really shaped, I guess, answering my why, why I'm a photographer, because I love capture. I want to enjoy the moment, and I want to be able to look back in a couple of years and say, hey, this was a really good time in my life. And I want my family to feel that way. I want anybody and everybody that I capture to have that image they can look back on and be like, hey, that was actually a really good time. Even though it was COVID, that was a really good time. So that's kind of rooted in creating memories for those who may not be able to afford it or have the means to. It's hey, now you know a photographer, and I'm willing to clear my schedule just so I can create this memory for you and your family. So that's me.
90 wins. Okay. So another thing that I recognise amongst all the people on stage here is just everyone's really embedded in community. And I think it's something of course, it's a bit of a buzzword, and it's important, of course, but it can be a little bit of a throwaway. And I think for photography especially, it's such a it can be such a solo practice, where you're making the work yourself, you're working on the photos yourself, you're having to drive it all yourself, and I'm really keen to kind of dig into the way that each of us connect with community through our professional practice. And Julie, I know you're so involved. I mean, a couple of weeks ago you were at Bright. You're travelling all the time, engaging in this way. So if you can talk a little bit about what your role is within the community and what you're seeing there.
I think I might start with just a little slant off that. I get personally wounded when people leave Nikon to go to another brand. Now, I can't help it. I know everyone says to me, please don't take it personally, but I do, because I lose a friend and I don't see them as often and I don't travel with them as much. And I know it's what makes me good at my job, but it still kills me. So if you shoot Nikon, please don't leave. But I care about it a lot because I really care about that journeying with people. Like, some of my best friends are in this room. Can't see any of you because it's very bright, but seriously, I've together, and we have that through creativity, or they might need to borrow a camera, or they have a special project, or they don't know how to do something, and it works both ways. Like, we form friendships, we learn things from everybody else all the time, from the questions they're asking us, from the projects they're doing, the diversity of the work, the diversity of the people. Every day is different in our jobs. Every day. I've worked for Nikon for a long time. I'm Benjamin Button, by the way. But community is really important, and it's everything. If you don't like people, don't be in photography. Don't be an image maker, because these people are unreal. Unreal. Love it. Please shoot,
I love you taking a different take on the question, and I encourage you both to do that. Absolutely.
I think I probably forgot what it was. But I feel it's really important, because when we have our brand hat on, it's not who, you just see a person standing. A lot of people just see a person standing behind, a table, like outside, or, here's our product. But we're people too, and we're in this industry because we genuinely care about imagery, and we care about the results that people are trying to get, whether that's in policing or defence or video, surveillance, whether it's in medical or commercial, advertising, architectural. All of those things are different fields that we kind of need to be somewhat across to be able to help people, and we love it. So, love it. Even if I don't pick up a camera, I'm inspired by everybody else.
And I might just break the order up here and go back to you for this one, Nighty. So, you talked about community in the video as well, and it sounds like it's something that's really central to your practice. So, I guess, where is that overlap between community and your photography, and why is it as important as it is?
So, as you've mentioned, I have been working with my community a lot, particularly in the last year or so. And sorry, I might take another different path.
Please do.
To answer this as
I'll just
well.
leave. You guys just keep chatting.
Okay, so, but I've found that with my community, I'm not only a photographer, but I'm also an educator at the same time. And I think that's because, you see somebody with a camera, it's like, oh yeah, it's just point and click, but it's actually a lot more than, just point and click. There's a lot of planning, and there's a lot of post-production as well. So, particularly with my community, it's a lot of the work started off as word of mouth. And then, as soon as I walk into a room with a camera, they're like, what is this girl doing here? And then she's actually pointing at you, to smile. And then right after I capture, they'll approach me like, oh, so can you airdrop the photo to me now? But, photographers, we don't really give out raw photos, by the way. Only because, raw photo is like a cake with no icing. You want a cake with icing. So, again, working with my community, where I'm in a position where I can educate, and by educating, I've had little girls come up to me like, oh my gosh, I've never been photographed by, a black female photographer before. I'm just like, oh my gosh, what do you mean? But I find that when I'm photographing and educating at the same time, I'm also opening doors for other people to kind of go, hey, I can do this too. Or how did you get into this? Or how can I start? So a lot of my community work has been really opening the doors for others, and to kind of be an example. And I'm not putting myself on this high pedestal, because I'm just a photographer, but I really did not fully understand how big it was for me to take this step into photography, and then also be in that position where I can point people in particular directions to achieve goals that they want to achieve. So again, sorry, I took a completely different turn on that, but yeah, that's me and my community.
Excellent. And Ricky, community for you, what does that mean?
like every single class I walk into, pretty much, my community as soon as I walk in there. So a really good example is, like, I developed the landscape subject that we have, landscape photography subject that we have at Collarts, and through developing that and teaching that the first time, I'm like, okay, so I'll do my own project with you guys as I go through. And it just showed, like, first day into it, I'm thinking, I haven't done this. Like, I've been too busy, like, being in education, and I haven't shot for, like, over a year. And it was just this, it was just this realisation that I needed photography. So I kind of cheated and went back to my community, my class, and we helped each other, and they helped me in that subject as much as I helped them. Yeah, I come with, you know, academic knowledge and skills knowledge and all this kind of stuff, but they come with an amazing knowledge that I don't have, like each individual person. So that's when I get out of the lift at George Street, or when I walk into the door here, that's community for me. It's all the students, it's all the colleagues, it's all the, you know, every single person here is a creative. Yeah. Like all our lecturers, all our students are all creatives, and it's just an incredible place. Education's just, creative education is just an incredible thing to be part of.
So, pardon me. So I think I've got probably like one more, I guess like topic that we can kind of cover for the moment. I feel like we could keep going for a really long time, but so the last thing that I'd really like to discuss, it's going to change a little bit for each of you, but I guess like the changes that are taking place in photography, and like, you know, there's some really big obvious things that have happened over the years. So, you know, like obviously that change from film to digital, AI, you know, these sorts of things. But yeah, I'd love to kind of like dig a little bit beyond that, because we're kind of sick of those conversations, I think. So like, I guess Julie, for you and Nick, on, you know, being supporters of the arts and having seen like a lot of different change within photography, how are you seeing a shift in the way that photographers are making work and, you know, running businesses and operating?
Really good question. And first of all, no one should be scared of technology. I really think, you know, there'll always be a place for creatives, for image makers, for film, photography, everything. Nikon is very innovative, and I think the processes will become a lot more automated. They'll also become a lot more safe and faster. So, for example, we have robotic cameras. Robotic cameras are not there to replace a human. They are there to be put in the bottom of a swimming pool at the Olympics, where a human being cannot go because they will drown. They are also there to be put in the top of Rod Laver Arena or a Margaret Court Arena, where a human being cannot go up there. It's unsafe. But they are still operated by a photographer that has the vision, knows what image they're looking for. They know whether they want to slow the frame rate down, the shutter speed to get a blurry background like a panning shot, or whether they want to freeze it, or whether they want to rotate the robot to have the Melbourne sign on Rod Laver Arena the correct way up for the orientation of the picture. So they're not there, the technology is not there to replace photographers. They're there to help make it safer, to make it more automated, make it faster, FTP, wireless transfer, all of those things that everyone wants their images now, and agencies and press and so on are no different. I think the other thing, you did touch on AI, and that is a can of whoopee, but what we have got is we've got image authentication software, which has been done in partnership with another community, which is Adobe, Nikon, a lot of those other brands, the really big brands, where if you shoot an image, whether that's for archival purposes, think museums that are taking photographs of specimens, it might be, I'm not going to say something rude like I did before, so let's say they've found a fossil and they want to be able to 100% prove beyond doubt in a court of law, if they have to, that this image is real, it was shot on a camera and it has not been edited, and it was shot by this person here at this time, etc. So yes, there's applications for image authentication software and so on, it's called, and I've got my notes here because I was going to forget it, C2PA, if anyone wants to have a look at acronyms. Anyway, there's a lot of technology, a lot of advances, and we'll see a lot more of that, but it's not to be afraid of. It's actually to help support us to still earn a living and to still be really great at what we do, but to use the tools better to help us achieve that and to be able to concentrate on creating the image and making more money.
Ricky? I've got a different question for you.
Go
actually.
for it.
I want to hear about, like, I guess, you know, your, like how you learned photography, how you fell in love with it, and how you're seeing different things today, like whether that's the technology or just the approach to photography.
Yep. I studied photography, went to uni, did the 3-year degree, photography degree, and under the film days, like it was just transitioning, so my whole degree was in film. So I learnt in that, and I lived in the darkroom. I was lucky enough to have keys to the university darkroom because I swindled my way through that. And so me and a mate pretty much lived in there for 3 years and pretty much ran our photography business through the darkroom.
That sounds really healthy.
Yeah. There's nothing. I won't make that joke. So the thing was, the big difference is I just lived and breathed university for 3 years. I didn't work. I didn't have to. I'd saved up a lot of money beforehand because I had a really good job that was easy to get. Went back to uni at 24 and just was able to just concentrate on uni for 3 years. And what we notice now is a lot of our students, like the majority of our students, are working. Like I'd say 80-90% of our students are working. Some of them working full time, and they're squeezing their classes in during the week. So they have a lot less time to concentrate on photography. So we need to be a lot more flexible. We have some students on like full time, and then we have some students just doing 1 or 2 subjects, and whatever it takes really for them to get that education. And I'd say that's right across the industry, is because it's much harder to be financially. It's much harder to be a student nowadays. That's the biggest difference between. I think artistically, like, the power of the still is never going to go away, and it's the most powerful medium in the world. The pretty easy audience to say that to, but it is. It's the most powerful medium in the world, and that's never ever going to go away. And I won't start talking about AI because I won't stop. But it's I'll probably leave it there maybe before I get myself into trouble.
So, Nighty, a bit of a different take, because I don't think you can speak about, like, you know, the old days, but, sorry, I didn't mean to call you old. But I guess, like, you know, as an emerging photographer, is that fair to say, emerging photographer?
Fair to say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not necessarily about the challenges, but for yourself and your peers, like, how do you think people are maybe adjusting and evolving to kind of pursue this practice that might be a bit different from what you've seen from people in the past?
So actually, a lot of what Ricky said with the flexibility, say with studying, for example, because when I started at Collarts, I started as a part-time student as I was working full-time, and then I became a full-time student. Then I became a part-time student. But again, it's the flexibility, which honestly has just made my entire journey even more worth the while, because as you know, things in my life change, so does, you know, Collarts is able to facilitate for that. And also just having access to resources. I mean, I shoot a lot of digital, and a lot of my work is in studio as well as outside. But again, I, for example, asked Ricky a couple of weeks ago if I could shoot a wedding at the Collarts studio. And guess what he said? He said yes. So again, it's just, I think there are a lot more resources. Being able to be a photographer is a lot more, you know, accessible for me. It's like the only reason I wouldn't be a photographer is if I didn't want to be a photographer, kind of. But again, I know you're not that old, Ricky, but it was a while ago. But just comparing, there's just so many different avenues for me to be able to pursue what I do, what I love. I shoot a lot of weddings, particularly on the weekend, and that still allows me to, join my classes during the week, or be able to work during the week as well. I work a lot on the go, but just the flexibility really is there, and I'm so grateful to be, part of an institution and just being able to collaborate with the Photo Collective as well, with Gus, during the weekend, on the weekend as well. So just to answer your question again, the flexibility is amazing.
So
yeah.
one other thing that I've added is we've almost reversed in time as well. So many people are going back to shoot film.
Yeah.
And they don't just have a film camera, they have both. They have their digital and their film.
Yeah.
Like, so many of my students have a film camera sitting in their bag. And it's really special to them. Like, they don't just, because it's very expensive, but they don't just shoot a lot of film. But it's, I think that romance of film is coming back in.
Yeah.
Like, look how many, mini labs and film places have cropped up in the last 5 years. Like, when I started teaching in photography, there was no way I'd put a darkroom in a school. But, my students are begging me to build one here, so it's really interesting.
And that's actually really interesting, I think,
Yeah.
from the Nikon point of view, because, of course, legendary film cameras came from Nikon, but then a lot of the newer digital gear is sort of replicating that feel and look.
Absolutely.
Some of
It is.
old
Those
cameras.
retro cameras, the ZFC, which look exactly like the old FM2s and so on, and they're almost identical. It's just that they're actually digital, but you can work them completely manually. So you pick the little dial up and turn that around the shutter speed, and you turn the ISO, and it's literally slowing things down again. And they are hugely popular because, photography is still the fastest growing hobby in the world. It is about enjoyment. It's about, focusing on something little so the rest of the noise goes away. We might do it for our profession, but those cameras, there's a place for us to just enjoy what we're looking at rather than all the noise around. So yeah, I can see why film is really, really popular, as are the retro cameras.
So I think that's a really great place to leave it. We've got another talk coming up, and we're going to take a very short break because we've got a bit of a schedule to keep. So just 10 minutes, enough to have a bathroom break and maybe refresh a drink quickly if you want. But please just a big round of applause for these great people for being so open. Thank you.
Thank you, Photo Collective and Australian Photography Awards.
Yeah, we got obviously a huge program over the weekend, which I'm sure Harriet will touch on. You're going to touch on it, won't you, Harriet? Yep. I'm the one that is part of Photo Collective that has her hands off the wheel, so it's just kind of steering everywhere. But I'm lucky I've got Harriet and Gus to kind of keep it on track. Otherwise, we'd never know what we're doing. So, anyway, I digress. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again shortly.
Take a picture of your life, put it on your bedroom wall, check on it from time to time, make sure that you don't lose heart. Take a picture of your life, frame by frame, profiles and courage, name by name. Put a picture of your sadness next to one from better days. It's a holy madness, this holy joy and this holy pain. You came to bum a smoke, we stayed together as the seasons
Yeah, so wherever you feel comfortable, really, let's just grab a seat.
and a shoebox of photographs. between you and me is you and me. Once it was a girl who thought you needed to be saved by a white knight on a white horse and a white king. Maybe he's taking, but you'll take him anyway. Once it was a girl who thought you needed to be saved. It's alright to let go. And nobody has to see what's between you and me. I don't wanna change your mind, but I don't wanna go home tonight. Tell me no, or I'm coming over. Let the devil make a deal with the angel on your shoulder.
Um, everyone. That was such a lovely conversation that we just heard. So thank you to everyone who was a part of that one. I am so thrilled to be sitting up here with these fabulous women, Vicky Bell, Araya Lloyd and Alison Bennett. So we've got 4 educators here, all at different colleges and institutions around Melbourne. And this is so exciting to be able to come to a place where we can talk about, you know, photography education and education in general. I'm going to try not to say too much because I think these ladies are I just want to listen to them. So, but I'll just kick off. I think it's really interesting talking about how we all get started in photography education or in education in general, and why we sort of head into that path. So maybe Alison, I'd love you to kick it off if that's okay. Was it a sort of passion of yours to start with?
No, I was an accidental educator.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that a little bit sometimes.
Look, I was doing my masters in the early 2000s, and my kids were at a primary school, and I got to know some of the parents, one of whom was an academic at Deakin University, and one of her colleagues was looking for a tutor, and they needed someone who had broad digital skills, like it was to teach digital photography and digital media, and they're having trouble finding someone at that time who really understood the need, and so I was suggested and recommended, and I got my first sessional academic job then. And I was like, oh, this is all right. I can do this. But I was also, as you're asking that, remembering maybe sort of 5-10 years earlier, thinking, what do I want to do with my career? And I thought, university lecturing would be interesting, but I could never do that. I was just so sort of unsure of myself, and you reminded me of the journey towards sort of like finding the confidence to have something to say in that space. Yeah,
I can completely empathise with that. The first time I stood up in front of a class of 30 students looking back at me, I thought, what have I done here? But it's an enriching experience in the end. So Araya?
Okay. Am I close enough to this microphone, or do I need to step back a bit? Okay, good. I came to photography quite late, so when I was 40, I had my own version of the midlife crisis and went and studied a diploma of photography. And I remember my final folio review, actually Sally Brownbill was one on the panel, yes. And I just sat there crying because I actually didn't want to leave. And just after graduation, I was invited to teach, which was fantastic. It was, I didn't actually have to leave, it was brilliant. And it was a really great extension of my education. So that's basically how I came to it. I taught in a vocational program in various institutes, and I specialise in fine art printing, concept development, final folio, exhibition, that sort of side of things. The technical skills of cameras, I shouldn't say this, but bores me a little bit. I prefer the creative end, the concept development and the output of that. So I taught for about 10 years, and I'm currently no longer teaching formally, but I am part of a program for with a master's student doing mentoring work, which I really, really love. It's like being able to take all the good bits of teaching without all the administration, and I absolutely adore it. And I also do a lot of artist talks at various institutes. So that's really the focus of my education now, because I love teaching. I love it, but I don't like being stuck in a box and told what to do. So that's how I get to enjoy it still.
I feel like I need a guitar.
I know, it's a
bit lost on this stage. Shall we break out in harmony, ladies?
Yeah.
Hi everyone. Nighty, loved your talk. I got emotional, by the way. I'm very proud. Proud mama. I did a bachelor degree in education back in the 90s when I first left school, went meandering for a while, and then at 21 I decided I'm going to be an art teacher. And ironically, it was quite immersive and beautiful because we got to do all these incredible art studios, ceramic sculpture. We did life drawing every week. We learnt about art history, and it was the most beautiful course ever. It no longer exists. It was very immersive. Melbourne State College became part of Melbourne University. And then I was like, right, I'm going to apply for a job at PSC. And I didn't get it, Jim. I bet you're sorry now. No, but I came back eventually. And I decided I'm going to be a photographer, and that was it. So I didn't revisit the idea of teaching until about probably 8-9 years ago. But I think inherently I was always teaching anyway. Like I was always sharing and giving and supporting all my friends and colleagues. So I was already doing it, but not officially. And I also had a whole karate career that I was teaching karate at the same time. So teaching came naturally to me, and I love it, and I feel very blessed to be able to teach something I'm very passionate about, and hopefully I know that my students can feel how contagious it is to share that knowledge and take that energy away and make it their own.
I think you just touched on something that we've kind of spoken about before between us when we were sort of prepping for this, and that's, you did an art degree and photography was a part of that, but you did a lot of other things as well. And I know, Alison, that we've spoke earlier in the week about how photography intersects with many different kind of areas in life, not just art, but also kind of technically and creatively and lots of different areas. I wonder if you want to sort of touch on that a little bit and maybe how your courses are sort of developing that intersection or not.
Sure, no, I'd love to. So before I came here, I have spent an hour arguing with my dean at RMIT School of Art about what we're going to call our new course. We are in the process of completely redesigning the photography program at RMIT, and the whole university is going through this process. So we're moving from these quite sort of these self-contained programs to programs that have majors and minors. So students will do a major in photography, and they can do a major in art centre photography, client centre photography, documentary photography. So we're really surfacing the sort of specialisations, but we've got a fourth option which we can't decide what to call. And the fourth option, it's going to be something like creative technology or expanded media or expanded photography. It's the way that photography is porous with so many other technologies. It's part of ubiquitous computing, so every computer has a camera in it and every camera has a computer in it. But it's also the way that the boundaries around what is photography is kind of dissolving. So we want a chance for students to really dig deep into that. But the other part of it is that we want, it started with me having students wanting to go and do courses over in the digital media department because they wanted to learn how to use Touch Designer and game engines and things like that, because they were wanting to build works that use photography and these other technologies. So under this new structure, we can, a student can major in photography, but also do a minor in digital design, or even a minor in landscape architecture or fashion, for example. And a lot of the work that's being done in the fashion school and the landscape architecture school would look just as much at home in the photography school. The fashion students are designing directly into digital platforms without even building the fabric. They're just making the images using 3D modelling.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot of crossover between all those disciplines. So we're thinking of photography as being this horizontal discipline that intersects and is porous with a whole lot of other areas across the university. And even the guys in STEM want to come and play with us too. So we're making a lot of friends.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
You can be the epicentre.
Yeah.
And I think, Nighty just spoke to that a little bit as well at Collarts, being part of, a college that's kind of got a few different disciplines as well. And Vicky, did you want to sort of maybe...
I call it, it's like cross-pollination,
yeah,
a creative pollination, which is really beautiful, where there's a gorgeous exchange that's happening in the hive of Collarts, where the students all sort of connecting, collaborating, even independently on their own time, which is magical. And it's just, it's quite beautiful to see in this, like 90 said, this beautiful evolution of seeing other photographers maybe work and getting inspired by that, that collaboration, and it just really ignites the students, and it's just so beautiful to see the sparkle, and just the progress of the work is phenomenal.
And I think, because I teach at a college that's very specific to photography, and that's kind of been developing in its own way as well at PSC. We had the name change of the Bachelor of Photography to the Bachelor of Photography in Digital Imaging, and we're bringing in subjects on AI, and so still very much photography based, but definitely sort of crossing into sort of different areas of photography and trying to expand on that as well. And so I guess, Raya, I'd love to, so these are sort of, we're talking about sort of bachelor degrees here, but you were talking about vocational photography as more of a course that you were interested in and that you were been teaching in. And how do you think that's sort of different, and what do you think the students get in a different way to say a bachelor maybe?
Well, I think it gives a really good firm grounding in technical skills. When I was teaching, we had a Cert 4 in the first year and then diploma in the second year, and that first year was really foundational in understanding and learning all the technical skills that are needed to be able to create the work that you want. And then in the diploma, it moved into more personal projects where once you had that foundation of those skills, you could then actualise what you wanted to create, because without them you just sort of left a little bit blind. So I think, I know that research and conceptual and just that deep grounding in technical skills. That's not to say there wasn't anything creative done in that. So the second year was really about delving into the creative aspects of photography. So.
And you touched as well on the mentor experience, and that's something that I'm very passionate about as well. And having that sort of long ongoing mentorship. How do you think that sort of changes and develops differently to, say, a classroom situation?
It's completely driven by the student, right? So in vocational education, I was guilty of this. Well, why do I have to do this subject? I'm not interested. But when you're doing a mentorship, usually at a stage where you've developed your point of view, you've got your skills, and you're driving towards a specific goal in a project, and being able to, first of all, you need to be matched up really well with a mentor, because it can't just be anybody. Excuse me. So finding the right person and the right match, and then being able to tap into the knowledge and the skills of that particular mentor. But it just enables you to really, with one-on-one connection, to be able to really expand a project and send it in ways that can't be attained when you're having to cater to an entire group. It becomes very specific. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, sure. And I guess, Vicky, you were saying, I know you've got your mama role, and so that's sort of like very much a mentor kind of role as well, I guess. Do you find that is, I guess it's because we're all practicing education in a way, aren't we, as well? We practice our photography and we practice our creative fields, and we're sort of practicing our education as well. Is that something that you really bring into?
Absolutely. I think we're, as educators and teachers, we're also always mentors, always foremost, is that, we have like some really lovely intimate moments where we can just be really nurturing one-on-one, because it's very, like, it's an intimate classroom, and it's lovely because we can cater for everyone's sort of, what they're passionate about, and sort of I can help navigate them towards where they need to go to get their inspiration, or align them with opportunities as well. And that's really fulfilling, being able to kind of connect industry with students and give them opportunities to even do some like work experience, or just I'm always networking, so I think everyone will agree I'm a good networker, especially when it comes to the students and aligning them with these potential opportunities and other mentors externally, both in industry, professionally and creatively. And it's, I think it's a really important kind of collaboration and relationship that they have, and it teaches them those communication skills and how to kind of self-motivate and self-drive that relationship as well.
It's so interesting. I think what I didn't expect to get from teaching is the bonds you make with the students.
Yeah.
And I've just said goodbye to my third year class on Wednesday, and it's so sad. This is my third year class, and they sit in front of you at the beginning of the year, and they're strangers staring back at you, and you think, where are the people I knew last year? And you spend all year building this relationship. And then you sort of say goodbye, and you think, I don't want new ones. But then the new ones come, and you bond with them as well. It's really. I think
that really took me by surprise when I started teaching. I think as a student, I kind of assumed that the teacher was just sort of that we were all just faces. But having become a teacher, those connections and those relationships are real. They're really. I've got relationships with kids who were my kids in classrooms, and now they're adults out in the world. 10 years later, they're doing things.
Yeah, and I think they can inspire us to keep working and creating as well, because you're telling them to do it, so you better bloody well try and do it yourself, right? I suppose, does that go to, because you're the Deputy Dean of the Photography Department?
No, of the art school.
Of the art school.
Yes. So I find my sins, like when I was at university in the 80s, RMIT photography was this massive reputation. I find myself in charge of photography at RMIT. So that the School of Art has an art discipline and a photography discipline.
Yeah. And so do you find the students have an impact on that as well? Does that maybe not as directly as face-to-face learning and inspiring, but does, I guess, what they're going through and what they're learning, what they want to learn, I guess that must have an impact as it goes up the chain?
I'm not quite sure. Look, it's kind of much more strategic.
Yeah.
In terms of planning what the future of the program will look like. So yes, I have some contact with the students face to face, but most of my contact is with navigating between the academics and the institution and the sector, and trying to work out what's possible into the next 5-10 years.
That sounds like a big job.
I'm looking forward to a break.
I had a really good follow-on question, and it's just slipped. Things, I guess, and I know your practice is very sort of technological. Is that a word? I don't know.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm interested in technology, and I'm interested in the way that technology changes the kind of thinking that we can do. And my father was a computer scientist, so I kind of grew up with computers in the house in the 70s. So when I finally got my first digital camera in 2001, it was like, finally I can do the things that I've been pestering me and I couldn't achieve with film.
That's so amazing, because I think a lot of people at that time were like, what is this thing? How do I use it? But you were waiting for it.
It was kind of like I've been waiting for it.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I did my PhD on the way that photography is becoming porous with computing, and the way that essentially the way that images operate is completely different. So before digital photography, an image was an isolated 2D frame, and now images just sort of flow and circulate and reform all around us. So the whole economy and ecology of photography changed with the transition to digital. So I just find that endlessly fascinating. And what I love is that when you talk like that with the students, they go, yes, they get really excited. So for us, it's really about how do we begin to make sense of this and how do we teach it.
And do you feel like, Vicky, do you feel like that is happening with your students, that they're trying to grab onto the new technologies and they want to kind of explore them?
I feel like it's creeping in slowly. It's not dominating at this stage, and I think certainly just getting that solid foundation is kind of my motivation, and my plan is to make sure that they've got a solid craft so they can open up their world to the creative palette of everything out there, which is quite overwhelming at the moment. But I think the great thing is with the students is that they're all wired for technology. Like, they've got that mechanism to absorb it quite quickly, which is really exciting. More so than, like, I remember when Photoshop 1 came out and I freaked out and got into panic mode, and I was the last person to get onto digital. But now I think they're in the practice of connecting with technology and researching it and all the information out there, which is overwhelming. And the support is that it becomes quite intuitive over time. And we can apply the basic knowledge that we've got and then advance it through the technology, and then it becomes a bigger creative beast for us, which is exciting.
More layers to it.
More layers, why not? Bring it on.
And so, Araya, your work is much more like I wouldn't say traditional, but it's used in a traditional format. You use a traditional format. Are you sort of using new technologies as well, a little bit as well, or is it? I mean, it looks very filmic and it looks very archival.
I do use a lot of archival, but this is probably embarrassing to say, but when I started studying in 2010, I literally didn't know how to turn on a computer. That's how green I was. And being determined, I learnt very quickly, and by the end of, I did it part-time at 4 years. By the end, I was skilled enough to be able to teach, which is wonderful. But a lot of the things that I taught that were part of the curriculum, I found really restrictive. And so for me, with the technology, whether it's Photoshop or whatever tools I'm using, I just bend all the rules that what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do, and follow the path down the rabbit hole basically until I come up with something that I want to use as part of my work. But I am not very tech savvy. I'm going to put my hand up. I'm only knowledgeable in the things that actually interest me. So that means like I have a lot of fun with Photoshop. My work actually looks probably more processed than what it is. I tend to interject a lot of colour. So I don't have that experience of some of the newer technologies that are coming through because it's not where I'm centred with what I use programs to no rules, because I mean when I think about it, there's no mistakes to be made because it can always be undone, so why not play and experiment?
So true.
It's amazing.
I've been wanting to ask you, Ari, how did you get into mentorship and how do those relationships come to you?
Okay, that's really interesting. So talking back to the connections you make with your students is really important because they become part of a community. And if you think as a teacher that you can't learn from your students, then you're never going to have any great success. You can learn so much from your students. Through the connections I've made from teaching, I get asked a lot to do artist talks at various institutes. I've done an artist talk here, yes. And I'm always happy. Most of the time I don't get money for it, I don't care because I just love sharing what I know. We had external people coming in, no matter what they did, coming in and talking and sharing their knowledge and their passion, you could really feel it. And that was, for me, that was with my work, so I'm always happy to share what I can and inspire people. And then from that, I got got invited to do some mentoring, which I love.
Yeah.
I put in way much more time than I'm paid for, and I don't care because I'm invested. I'm invested in this person's project.
So the favourite part of my job is actually the PhD supervisions, which is very similar. So it's that one-on-one, working with somebody who's right at the edge of their game, and they also push me right to the edge of my game as well. So I love doing things that I don't know how to do. And so that kind of mentorship relationship where we're both sort of going, okay, let's just step into an unknown space and try and see what
The freedom of it, where that industry has been able to share and support. Yeah.
Coming back to your question earlier, and forgive me for jumping in. I had a PhD student today present his work, and he's actually working with brain-computer interface, where he wears a sensor that measures his brain waves while he's looking at images and is generating artwork basically through that sort of brain wave. So there's a whole, and I'm really excited because I think it's people are all very excited about AI, but there's this whole other emerging space around the researchers attempting to visualise the mind's eye. So taking data and trying and reverse engineering the data to actually try and visualise what the person's imagining, which is freaky and scary.
Yeah.
But
what are the results like? That's what I'm thinking. What does that look like?
Look, the stuff that the student's doing is pretty basic, but there's a group in Singapore who are pairing AI with this data to get really good, almost, it's getting closer and closer to looking photographic.
Wow.
Yeah.
People are amazing, aren't they? It's just incredible.
And, I think similar to AI, we need to have a critical mind as well. Like, I don't really want you guys to be able to see what is going on inside my head. I like my privacy. So I'm not all for it. And there's all, the whole transhumanists who want to upload their minds to the internet and live in this big soup. I don't want to do that.
No.
But there's this really asking important questions, I feel. So
Absolutely.
that's where the PhD mentorship work is fun. Yeah.
God, you learn so much doing that, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So I might just ask a couple more questions. Maybe I will ask you, Vicky. So I guess that there might be some students in the room, or there's some students watching online.
Yes, Harriet.
And I guess there's different courses out there, there's different programs, there's mentoring, there's bachelor's, there's vocational. A lot of students leave high school and think they have to do something straight away, and a lot of students come back later. So I don't know where I'm going with this question, but I guess it's how do people choose? Like, where do you begin? Where do you start?
Just come to Collarts. You don't have to choose.
Come to Collarts. Get mentorship.
Set me
Go to
up for that.
PSC. Go to RMIT.
They're all fantastic. Everyone's so many amazing educators. It's just a matter of choice. It's like anything. And I think there's no age. Like, it's not education is not ageist, and I love the fact that you can start at any time. And you always work on what's the right fit for you. And there's a lot of other considerations, like, I guess, only I can talk from Collarts' experiences that because it's very family, it's very intimate, and it suits the right people that want that, But someone might want something a little bit more, louder or bigger, and that might suit their state of mind, their personality, their repertoire of work that they want to navigate to. So I feel like there's a fit for everyone.
Yeah.
And you can't sort of say this one's better than that one, because we all offer great quality education. Like, that's without a doubt. That's why we're all here, community, it's our buzzword.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's all about the right time for the individual, the right fit for their creative minds and their personalities especially. Yeah, because we're embracing so much more now, we're understanding so much more about the psychology of people and what is the right fit for them.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Do you have anything to add?
Well, I mean, that's why I love being involved with photography, because for me, people who are committed to photography are committed to lifetime learning. It's a field that isn't static, it's constantly emerging and changing, and so you need to, it attracts people who are hungry for learning and understanding new things. So that's why I like being involved as a part of a photography community, but also part of photography education, because this is a place that values my curiosity.
Yeah, I was going to say, as a sort of a wrap-up question, I guess, was, why is... firstly, I'd just like to say that these are 3 amazing artists as well, and their work's been shown up here on the screen, and you can absolutely... We haven't really touched into their personal practices, but please look out for them. But I guess just to kind of wrap up the educational talk, I guess why is education important to you? Like, why is photography education important? Is there something that's kind of, that you feel like is, the thing that you've held on to from either your mentoring or your studying?
It is that sense of community. I think, when I came to it, it was later in life, and I wasn't connected to a photographic community or an art community. And so, the people I met, the connections I made, and the networking that you can do in an institute is really important. I'm not saying that that's a be-all and end-all. You can actually be self-educated, but I guarantee people make lots of mistakes and take longer to get there. But the connections, whether it is across different disciplines within the institute, but I'm still really close friends with the people I studied with, and also with a lot of people I taught, and that's really incredibly valuable. If you're doing that on your own, you're never going to make those networks and those connections, and you're not going to have somebody that can... I mean, I found Lisa's here, she's up there somewhere, but having someone that understands what you're creating and is able to be honest with you and give you feedback and is a sounding board is really important. When you're working in a bit of a silo, you don't always... you can't always see what you need to see because you're so invested in it emotionally. So having people who actually understand the process, understand the industry, understand what it is you're trying to create is absolutely invaluable. Yeah. And I got all of that from studying. Yeah.
And what about you, Vicky?
I'd support that 100%.
Yeah.
It's not just the photography, that's just a part of it. It's bigger, and I just spoke to a friend yesterday that I studied with back in the 80s, and it's just, we're still there. We're still connected through this kind of umbilical cord of creativity, and it's quite beautiful. And then along the way, there's all these other communities, and you start to build, and all of a sudden you're nourished by this creative network of wonderful, incredible people that you've met along the way, and I feel very, blessed for that. So, yeah, it's photography, but it's more than that. It's so incredible. After, it's 30 plus years of being a photographer, an artist, a bullshit artist maybe at times, I just go, God, I'm lucky. I feel so lucky. It's been the most unbelievable career. And if I can, give that to my students and give them that positivity and say, just don't give up. We give up too soon. Don't give up. And, once you get knocked down, get up again and keep moving forward, and just, don't give up so quickly. There's a lot of
about them. And I bought it for my husband for his birthday, and I wasn't even into photography at the time, but I bought this, and it ends up...
serendipitous.
I found out not that long ago that Vicky's name is on the back.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's
That's incredible.
And I have a copy and you have a copy and that's it.
It's still on my wall.
And I feel
Wow.
so blessed.
Amazing.
So blessed. We were meant to, our satellite was meant to meet.
This was in
It's
the
beautiful.
stars, this whole
And I love that. And I'm so blessed.
So I've been trying to reflect on this while I've been talking, and I'm going to lean into not just me but also my colleagues. And as we talk about what we do, it's not just about responding to the needs of the photography sector, it's also the opportunity to shape the future of the photography sector and to equip those students who are coming up to the next generation onto what the future of our sector might look like. And so we talk yes, we need technical skills, because without the technical skills you don't have the language and the capacity to do the kind of gestures and work you want to do. We're interested in having students understand the history and the context and how to speak about their work. They need professional practice skills, but they also need ethical frameworks. And that's been a really big part of the curriculum that we've been developing, and really lovely to talk to recent graduates like Phoebe Schmidt, who talks about, the ethical protocols she has for dealing with models and with all her staff. It's really to have those ethical frameworks are necessary in ways that they perhaps haven't been talked about so explicitly in the past. So we're really wanting to contribute to a good future.
That's so true, and we're finding that through the programs that we run as well, more and more every year, that the committees are all talking about the ethics of the photographer, what they're photographing, and whether the image is a great image or not. What are the ethics behind it, and does that need to be rewarded or not? So it's fascinating, that whole area, and I think that's another whole discussion. So I think that's a really lovely place to finish. I just want to say thank you all so much for being a part of this. Everyone on this panel was part of our APA committee this year, and I have been educated by all of you and your views on photography and your expertise, and it's definitely one of the best parts of my work, that to be able to be surrounded by such interesting voices and hear what you guys all have to think about photography. So, and tonight I got to hear about what you think about education. So thanks for all coming together. I think this has been really special, having all these different institutions together as well. And I just have to do a shout out and say this is the first night of the APA weekend, and we've got a big weekend at Bodrigi over the next 2 days, all celebrating incredible photography. So thank you so much for coming tonight. Thank you so much, Collarts, for having us. Thank you, Nikon, for being here. And we really look forward to seeing you over the weekend, and thank you all so much as well. The bar's still open for about half an hour.
Nikon or Nikon?